Hi, I'm Patrick Dunnican. At Gibbons, we believe that citizens need to be informed about the complex issues that affect their lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by Gibbons PC, New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT makes a difference in our students' futures. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. PSE&G, committed to providing safe, reliable energy now and in the future. Operating Engineers, Local 825. The New Jersey Education Association. NJM Insurance Group, serving New Jersey's drivers, homeowners, and business owners for more than 100 years. And by St. Joseph's Health, world-class care just around the corner. Promotional support provided by ROINJ, informing and connecting businesses in New Jersey. And by Insider NJ.
Hi, this is Steve Adubato, coming to you remotely. We will be in the NJTV studio soon, I promise. But right now, we are honored to be joined once again by the President of New Jersey State Senate, Steve Sweeney. Mr. President, how are you?
Steve, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. You're coming to us from the State House, and let's talk State House business. We're taping on the 22nd of September. It'll be seen after that. It'll be relevant after that. You talk an awful lot, and you've told me offline as well about the importance of, quote, putting New Jersey's fiscal house in order. What does that mean, and how has it changed given this COVID crisis?
Well, you know, Steve, the COVID crisis has turned everything upside down. There was just recently a Rutgers study out that talked about the world, the country, the state of New Jersey, that we basically gotten half the jobs that we lost during the COVID back. But these other jobs, the other half, is going to be really hard to get. So, you know, financially, we're struggling. We were struggling before the COVID, but it's made it worse. So for me, passing a budget is going to be critically important. But as soon as we're done that budget, we have to start talking and crafting reforms to start fixing the structural problems that exist here in New Jersey. You know, we just can't borrow our way out of this. We need to start to fix things that are just things that are so damn obvious and have been for years, Steve, but people have been reluctant, whether, you know, because they were concerned.
Name one, Senator.
Well, name one. I could name 100. How about
I know you could. Top of the list.
School consolidations. You know, I got Salem County, which is the smallest county in the state, actually just got a grant to study a countywide school system. It's about time. Give me an example. Salem County has less than 11,000 kids, spends $226 million a year combined. Go to Vineland, they got 11,000 kids, right? Same demographics, pretty much everything's the same. They spend $180 million a year. You know, Steve, it's finding ways to reduce the burden. Yes, it's going to require change. It's going to require us to look at things differently. But, you know, you can change, do things smarter, do things better. And we need to do that. My home county is the only county that has countywide ambulance. It works. Better response times, cheaper cost. Again, go back to my home county, Gloucester. They don't have any jails. They got an upgrade in their bond rating because they closed their jails down and exported their prisoners. They saved $21 million a year. So, Steve, it's like we can't expect to break out of things in New Jersey until we as taxpayers, who are very upset about the high cost of living here, understand we can do something about this, but it's going to require us to do it differently. When you put your trash out, it's got to get picked up. You know, when you call 911, the ambulance or the police officers or the fire company need to come. And what I'm saying is you can do all those things, and you can do them more efficiently, you can do them better. And we got to get serious about changing now. We're going to borrow $4.5 billion
Which we are.
Unless that's what we're looking at right now, unless the feds come in and they get their act together where they recognize they have to help not just New Jersey, but all these states right now. And we expect they will because, you know, the blue-red state crap, you know, the red states are hurting too now. So I would expect that the federal government at some point will come in, and whatever we get from the federal government, we will pay off debt. But it's time to fix what's structurally wrong with New Jersey. You know, we like it. We hate the taxes, but we like what we have. And what I keep telling people is you can have the same level of services without the cost. You know, so it's just a matter of doing things differently than what we did before. We got to look at our pension system. We really have to look at our pension system on how
Our
we
public
can,
employee pension system.
yeah, and listen, keep the promises made to everybody. But just like Pennsylvania did not too long ago with the Democrat governor, they came up with a hybrid pension system. And guess what, Steve? The unions supported it in Pennsylvania because they recognized something had to be done. So I don't think anyone here doesn't recognize there's problems. It's actually going through the act of fixing them.
So, Senator, let's do this. Last time we actually spoke again remotely at the beginning of this pandemic on the 20th of March. We're taping at the end of September. There will be a budget struck in the next few weeks in the state of New Jersey. You know, when I talked to you on the 20th, I remember you were pretty adamant about the Millionaires Tax, hiking taxes on millionaires. The governor had proposed that taxes on millionaires, those earning $1 million to $5 million, go from 8.97% to 10.75%. You said, no, we're not going to, it's not the right time. Something has evolved. You've apparently changed your position. Your position has evolved because
the world changed, Steve. Even back then, we were just getting into the pandemic then. You know, leaders have to recognize when things change and they have to change with them. I still don't like the policy. I can tell you that right now. I'm not happy about it, but trying to help the middle class, and that's normally the class that gets the least amount of help when we do government, because they're people that make just enough, Steve, to stay above this program or that program, but they're not wealthy. They're people that work very hard in the middle. You know, they're my iron workers. They're my union iron workers that never see really a benefit. So when the speaker came to me, you know, I was
Speaker Coughlin, the Assembly Speaker Coughlin.
When he came to me and said, listen, how about if we do it to help the middle class? You know, I started looking at it. I didn't say yes in 2 seconds, but I started evaluating. And I said, yeah, we have to help them. Listen, I'm not crazy about the policy, but when the speaker came to me with the idea, when Speaker Coughlin came in with the idea, it was hard to say no.
Well, I'm going to clarify something. When you say there's a rebate program,
yes.
And help me if I'm wrong on this, Senate President. By the way, Steve Adubato talking to Senate President Steve Sweeney. We're taping late in September. A $500 check goes to families earning $150,000 or less. For a single-parent family, $75,000, they still get the $500 check. Is that, and that's supposed to come in the summer of 2021, correct?
It's going to come every year, Steve. It's not going to be just a one shot.
It's not a one shot.
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't do then the Millionaires Tax would have to be a one shot. I wouldn't be willing to do that. You know, Steve, it's up to 500 because you actually have some people that, because of where they are on the income spectrum, don't pay 500 in state income tax. So if I only pay $243 in state income tax, then that's what I would get the credit for what I paid, not for more than. So, like I said, Steve, if this was a one shot, I would move to repeal it. This is going to be an annual program, and I feel strongly that we got to make sure that it stays.
Let me ask you this. We've been doing a series of interviews around an initiative called Reimagine Childcare. It was formerly known as Right from the Start NJ, all about quality, accessible, affordable childcare. I've talked to you about this before. In these tight times and with this pandemic, with so many parents trying to figure out how to work with their kids, remote, hybrid, all kinds of things going on, how high a priority is quality childcare?
Well, it's extremely high. And, you know, in recognition of the governor, he put $150 million into a program to help people afford childcare. You know, Steve, we're really in a catch-22 We need our schools. We need our kids to go back to schools. The kids need to be with kids. It's not safe right now, so they're home. People have to go to work. How do you go to work if you got to watch your kids and teach your kids? So having affordable childcare is critically important to get us through this pandemic that we're dealing with. And childcare where it's got value, like, where there's real value, it's not just babysitting, where children are learning is very important, as you know.
Switch gears. I'm curious about this. When it comes to the issue of innovation, offshore wind, we actually had an interview recently talking about offshore wind projects. You have sent a letter with some other colleagues to the Board of Public Utilities saying, hey, wait a minute, we have to make sure that offshore wind initiatives create the number of jobs, the kind of jobs that have been promised. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, absolutely, Steve. I was the author, along with John Bersacelli, of the offshore wind legislation, the OBREX. And we were out before anyone. We were the first ones. All the states followed us. And the reason why we focused on offshore wind is we recognize that there's an industry there. But making sure that industry comes to the shores of the United States is why we sent that letter. We want to see manufacturing in the United States. And since we're first and we've already made investments, we just built a brand new port in Paulsboro for the purpose of offshore wind. The state put a couple $100 million into that thing so that we can so we're ready. All the other states are actually getting ready, but we are ready, Steve. And we're right in the middle of the entire coast of where these windmills are going to go. So we're the most economical. The one thing we don't have is that commitment on manufacturing. Offshore wind's very expensive, and ratepayers are going to pay for this clean energy. But the benefit to New Jersey was jobs, the manufacturing jobs, good paying middle-class manufacturing jobs. And as the author, I didn't send that letter lightly. I didn't just say, I just want, it was to let the people that are in the offshore industry know that we're not going to put up with the BS of that everything's coming from Europe and we're just going to pay the freight.
Got it.
They're going to put jobs in this country. One of the people involved in offshore wind said to me, he said, hey, listen, the ships come, we lease the ships, they come with crews, they're Europeans. I said, Americans can learn how to work on their ships too. I said, and since we're footing the bill, my friend, we're going to have Americans on their ships. Now, the Americans can come from wherever in the United States, but something, Steve, to accept that kind of attitude, that there's nothing we can do about it, oh yeah, we can do a lot about it. That's why we sent the letter.
Senator, I got about 2 minutes left. Real quick, voting. This will be seen before and after November the 3rd. On the back end of this program, Holly Schepisi in the lower house in the Assembly said no reason we should not be able to vote in person. There are some concerns, lots of concerns. The president has expressed them about vote by mail. Your view on vote by mail? Got a minute left.
I agree. We should have had the option of in-person voting like they did in Minnesota. In Minnesota, 75% of the people opted for mail-in ballots, Steve. 25% went to the polls. I think it was a mistake. I think we made a mistake on it, but the point is—
You think the governor saying will be largely mail-in was a mistake?
I think we made a mistake, yes. I'm not criticizing him. He's dealing with the pandemic. He thought he's doing what he thinks is right. I think we should have allowed in-person voting. I was public about that. But at the end of the day, it's too late now. We're in it, and we got to make sure we preserve and protect people's rights to vote. See, their argument, the Republicans' arguments I don't agree with, that it's not reliable. I don't believe in that because I've been voting by mail for the last 10 years, I guess. We have early voting. I go to our county store in the mall, and I would vote before you would apply for the ballots automatically. I go to the county store in the mall and get my ballot and vote at the beginning of October.
Yep.
Always.
You trust the process?
Absolutely. I absolutely trust the process because boards of election have boards that are Republicans and Democrats on those boards.
That's right.
And there's never been any.
I'm sorry. Check out our interview with Chris Durkin, the Essex County clerk, who talked about Democrats and Republicans running the Board of Elections. Senate President Steve Sweeney, I'm sorry for not having more time. I cannot thank you enough for joining us from the State House. We wish you and your family all the best. Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Steve. You too. Be safe.
You got it. We're right back right after this.
To watch more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to welcome once again with us, Assemblywoman Holly Schepisi from the 39th Legislative District up in beautiful Bergen County. Assemblywoman, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
You're coming to us from your legislative office.
I am. Different than the studio.
Yeah, well, we'll see you in the studio again soon. Hey, can we just get right into some policy issues?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're taping on the 22nd of September. This will be seen before and possibly after, but let's focus on before. Mail-in voting. The president has said fraudulent, thousands of pieces of mail are going to people who are dead, who already voted. God knows what's going on. It's fraud. Mail-in voting, your thoughts are?
Well, unfortunately, New Jersey may be one of the only states that actually proves some of the president's comments correct. Unfortunately, we are a state that has had quite a significant problem over the years with fraudulent voting, particularly on the vote by mail stuff. We just saw it in Paterson, we've seen it in Hoboken, we've seen it in Elmwood Park, we've seen it in a lot of communities around us. I believe in an election such as this, anybody who wants to safely vote by mail should absolutely have that ability to do so. But I thoroughly disagree, pursuant to executive order, taking away the right of millions of people to go and vote in person who want to vote in person. And in a state such as New Jersey, with so many issues historically, trying to mandate 100% vote by mail for a presidential election is insane.
Well, hold on one second. Assemblywoman, didn't Governor Murphy's executive order allow for people to vote in person if they choose to, with limited number of polling places?
You have limited number of polling places, but this is where people are so confused. People go, well, great, I can vote in person, thinking that they're going to walk into their polling place, go to a machine and place a machine ballot vote like they've done for the past several decades. The governor's executive order takes away that ability, and you are only permitted to go in and vote pursuant to a paper provisional ballot, which really makes absolutely no sense. If this is being done pursuant to health and safety considerations, now you are having people in the polling locations for probably 10 times longer than they would be if they were just going in to merely place a machine vote.
Okay, by the way, if there's any audio issues, it's because producing remotely, obviously we're at the mercy of the internet, so I just want to apologize up front for that, but the content is as compelling as ever with the Assemblywoman. Assemblywoman, let me ask you this. Governor Murphy's budget, not going to try to predict how the vote's going to go down in the legislature as we do this program. I believe the budget has to be struck by the end of October.
That's, we are actually, from what I've been told, we're voting on it this upcoming Thursday for end of September.
Okay, for end of September, my bad. So it's the beginning of October is this new fiscal period, if you will. But the governor has argued that, once again, we need a millionaire's tax. It appears that the Senate President, Steve Sweeney, who we'll be interviewing today as well, he's actually on this program and with you. People have already heard what he's had to say. He's on board, apparently. And a lot of it is because there's a rebate that's going to be going to people. I believe it's $500 to certain families. It may be a lesser amount to other families. I'm not sure, depending upon income. But Sweeney and others who have resisted the millionaire's tax say, you know what? If there's going to be a rebate next summer for people, I'm all in with or at least I'm in for the millionaire's tax. It makes sense. You say?
Of course they're all in, because they're essentially giving the people of New Jersey, right before their own election, $500 as some sort of big reward. It's nonsense once again. Here we are in a situation, and candidly, look, the governor told the people of New Jersey, I'm going to raise your taxes, and boy, has he kept that promise. Rather than cut spending, rather than eliminate any sort of governmental waste, rather than implement any of the programs that we have suggested, which would have ensured that we saved billions of dollars, he's increased spending by billions and billions and billions of dollars each year that he's been in office. Our tolls just went up. Our gas tax just went up again. They did a new multi-billion-dollar borrowing plan in which, if they can't pay it, in addition to all these other taxes, we now have a statewide new property tax that could be implemented. And the governor's out there announcing initiatives like baby bonds, where it's one of the most inane things I've ever heard of, where we're going to go and give everybody in the state of New Jersey who has a baby a $1,000 bond, while we're borrowing money, paying interest on that borrowed money that would cost the taxpayers of the state about $86 million in interest over the life of the bonds. Issue these bonds that will only accrue interest of maybe $21 million with a net deficit of over $60 million. And that's the sort of stuff that the people of the state of New Jersey need to be educated about. We keep hearing millionaires tax. We keep hearing, oh, let the rich pay. What people don't know is that in New Jersey, we already have a graduated tax in which millionaires are paying significantly more. So
but this would increase it by less than 2%. I'm sorry for interrupting, Assemblywoman. It would only increase the millionaires tax for people who earn between $1 million and $500 million a year by a little less than 2%.
Yeah, but it's a total cumulative tax of 10.75%, which is one of the highest taxes in the entire nation.
Do you think we're going to lose those millionaires?
What was that?
Do you think we're going to lose those millionaires who move to other states, particularly Florida, who establish legal residency and say, I'm out, and then we lose all that revenue? Because the governor has said he doesn't believe people move based on income tax exclusively or even largely.
Well, I don't know if the governor's been taking a look at the outmigration of this state, but it's already proven that people are leaving New Jersey en masse. We are one of the states with the largest exodus rate in the entire country.
So you don't buy it. You think we're going to lose those people. But I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah.
The idea of the borrowing, the fact that the Supreme Court in New Jersey has allowed the governor to borrow, doesn't that say, Assemblywoman Schepisi, by the way, we're on with the State Assemblywoman Holly Schepisi, who served in the legislature for how long, Holly?
Gosh, I'm losing count. It seems like dog years.
Don't say that. It's been a few years. So she understands the state's economic situation. She's had to vote on these things. But what would you say that to those who say the Supreme Court and others have allowed the governor to borrow like this because of this global pandemic, because of this horrific situation that put the state in a terrible economic circumstance, and we have to borrow in order to pay our bills and pay state employees and their pension, et cetera?
Well, first off, with respect to, I disagree with the state Supreme Court's decision. They actually gave a very inconsistent opinion based upon just an opinion they gave several years ago. We have been ruled by executive order now since March. Executive orders in the state are supposed to be a short-term measure. And a lot of the financial issues that we're currently in have been self-inflicted. The governor chose to pick and choose winners and losers of industry. He chose to keep small businesses closed well past the time frame that he should have. He chose to keep restaurants that employ 500,000 people in the state and are responsible for significant revenue in this state closed well past the time that he should have.
He was trying to be cautious, he said, Holly.
We flattened, okay, so the entire thing behind the executive orders was to flatten the curve. If you look at the numbers, we flattened the curve back in early June. We are now approaching October. As we sit here today in a state with almost 10 million people, total number of hospitalizations, 417. Total number of patients on ventilators in a state with almost 10 million people, 34. Total
That's
number
now,
of patients.
Assemblywoman. But what about if the potential, the twin pandemic, if you will, or the flu season together? Listen, we hope that doesn't happen. I'm knocking on wood. But that's now. Shouldn't we also be planning for a worst case scenario?
Well, we can plan for worst case scenario. That doesn't mean that we give over our legislative authority. to one person to rule indefinitely for years pursuant to executive order. I think it's really important to see the decision that just came down in Pennsylvania, and I'll read it because I think it's great. The judge in Pennsylvania said, the governor's efforts to slow the spread of the coronavirus were undertaken with the good intention of addressing a public health emergency. But even in an emergency, the authority of government is not unfettered. In an emergency, even a vigilant public may let down its guard over its constitutional liberties, only to find that liberties once relinquished are hard to recoup, and that restrictions, while expedient in the face of an emergency situation, may persist long after immediate danger has passed. And that's
30
what's
seconds.
going
What do you
on.
take from that?
I take that the executive authority, the executive power that the governor is utilizing is at this point well beyond any sort of public emergency that should have allowed an executive order power to continue. He has control of the Senate and the Assembly in the state of New Jersey. He should come to the Senate, to the Assembly, have us do our jobs, and in the event that we have a twin pandemic coming forward in the future, that is our role and responsibility. This isn't a wink, wink, nod, nod. We're going to give up all of our powers so that we don't actually have to make decisions that, could harm us in a future election. It's absurd at this point.
This has been Assemblywoman Holly Schepisi from the 39th Legislative District. Holly, thank you so much for joining us. We want to thank everyone for listening and watching us right now, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Gibbons PC, New Jersey Institute of Technology, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, PSE&G, Operating Engineers, Local 825, the New Jersey Education Association, NJM Insurance Group, St. Joseph's Health, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by ROINJ and by Insider NJ.
Being a kid is all about playing, laughing, and having fun. Doing what they do best, from rolling in leaves to building a snowman. But when illness or injury slows your little one down, you want the best pediatric care possible. Turn to the experts at the St. Joseph's Children's Hospital to get your superhero feeling super again. St. Joseph's Health, helping kids be kids.